out into this world, tiny little thing, before its time, and I go, what, girl, yes, tiny little girl, out into this, before her time, God-forsaken hole, called, no matter, parents unknown, unheard of, he having vanished thin air, no sooner buttoned up his breeches, she, similarly, 8 months later, almost with a tick, so no love spared that, no love such as normally vented on the speechless infant in the home, no, nor indeed for that matter, any of any kind, no love of any kind, it's any subsequent stage, so typical affair, nothing of any note, till coming up to 60, when, what, 70, good God, coming up to 70, wandering in the field, looking aimlessly for cow slips to make a ball, a few steps, then stops, staring into space, then on, a few more, stop, stare again, so on, drifting around, when suddenly, gradually, all went out, all that early April morning light, and she found herself in the, what, who, no, she found herself in the dark, and if not exactly insentient, for she could still hear the buzzing, so caught in the ears, and a ray of light came and went, such as the moonlight cast drifting in and out of cloud, but so dull, feeling so dull, she did not know what position she was in. Imagine what position she was in, whether standing or sitting, but the brain, what, kneeling, yes, whether standing or sitting or kneeling, but the brain, what, lying, yes, whether standing or sitting or kneeling, but the brain, still, in a way, for her first thought was, how long after sudden flash brought up as she had been to believe, with the other wife sin and merciful, God. First thought was, how long after sudden flash she was being punished for her sins, a number of which then further proof were needed, flashed to her mind one after another, then dismissed as foolish. How long after this thought dismissed as she suddenly gradually realised she was not suffering. Imagine not suffering, indeed could not remember offhand when she had suffered less, unless of course she was meant to be suffering, thought to be suffering, just as the odd time in her life, and clearly intended to be having pleasure, she was in fact having none, not the slightest, in which case of course that notion of punishment for some sin or other, for the loss or no particular reason, for his own sake, things she understood perfectly, that notion of punishment which had first occurred to her, brought up which she had been to believe with the other wife, sin and merciful. God. First occurred to her, then dismissed as foolish, was perhaps not so foolish after all, so on, all that vain reasoning, still another thought, so long after, sudden flash, very foolish really, but what, the buzzing, yes, all the time buzzing, so called, in the ears, though of course actually not in the ears at all, in the skull, dull roar in the skull, and all the time this ray or beam like moonbeam, but probably not, certainly not always the same spot, now bright, now shrouded, but always the same spot, as no moon could, no moon, just all part of the same wish to torment, though actually in point of fact, not in the least, not a twinge, so far, this other thought then, how long after, sudden flash, very foolish really, but so like for in a way that she might do well to groan, on enough writhe, she could not as if in actual agony, but could not bring herself some flaw in her makeup, incapable of deceit, or the machine more likely, the machine so disconnected, never got the message or powerless to respond, like numb, couldn't make the sound, any sound, no sound of any kind, no screaming for help, for example, should she feel so inclined, scream. Then listen. Scream again. Then listen again. No, spared that. All silent as the grave, no part what? The buzzing, yes. All silent but for the buzzing, so called. No part of her moving that she could feel, just the eyelids, presumably, on and off. Shut out the light, reflex they call it, no feeling of any kind, but the lids, even best of times, who feels them, opening, shutting, all that moisture, but the brain still sufficiently, or very much so at this stage, under control to question even this. For on that April morning, that April morning, she fixing with her eye, distant bell as she hastened towards it, fixing it with her eye, lest it elude her, not all gone out, all that light of itself without any on her part, so on it reasoned, vain questionings, and all dead still, sweet silence as the grave, when suddenly, gradually, she realized, what? The buzzing, yes, all dead still, but for the buzzing, when suddenly she realized words were, what? Who? No, she realised words were coming. Imagine words were coming. A voice she did not recognise at first, so long since it had sounded, then finally had to admit could be none other than her own certain vowel sound she had never heard elsewhere, so that people would stare the rare occasions once or twice a year, always wince for some strange reason, stare at her uncomprehending, and now this steady stream, she who had never on the contrary practically speechless all her days, how she survived, even shopping, busy shopping centre, supermarket, just handing the list with the bag, all black shopping bag, then stand there waiting, any length of time, middle of the throng, motionless, staring into space, mouth half open as usual, till it was back in her hand, the bag back in her hand, then paying go, not as much as goodbye, how she survived, and now the stream not catching the half of it, not the quarter, no idea what she was saying, imagine, no idea what she was saying, so she began trying to delude herself. It was not hers at all, not her voice at all, and no doubt what a vital she said was on the point after long efforts, when suddenly gradually she felt her lips moving. Imagine her lips moving, as of course till then she had not, and not alone the lips, the cheeks, the jaws, the whole face, all this, what, the tongue, yes, the tongue in the mouth, all those contortions without which no speech possible, and yet in the ordinary way not felt at all, so intent one is on what one is saying, the whole being hanging on its words, so that not only had she to give up, had met hers alone, her voice alone, but this other awful thought, how long after sudden flash, even more awful if possible, that feeling was coming back. Imagine feeling coming back, starting at the top, then working down the whole machine, but no, spared that, the mouth alone, so far, then thinking, how long after sudden flash, she can't go on all that steady stream, straining to him, make something of it, and her own thoughts make something of them, or what, the buzzing, yes, all the time the buzzing, so called, all that together, imagine, whole body like gone, just the mouth, lips, cheeks, jaws, never what, tongue, yes, lips, cheeks, jaws, tongue, never still a second, mouth on fire, stream of words in her ear, practically in her ear, not catching the half, not the quarter, no idea what she's saying, imagine, no idea what she's saying, and can't stop, no stopping it, she who but a moment could not make a sound, no sound of any kind, now can't stop, imagine, can't stop the stream, on the whole brain begging something, begging the brain, begging the mouth to stop, pause a moment, defend for a moment, and no response as if it hadn't heard, or couldn't pause a second, like maddened, all that together, straining to hair, piece it together, and the brain raving away on its own, trying to make sense of it, or make it stop, or in the past, dragging up the past, flashes small over, walks mostly, walking all her days, day after day, a few steps, stops, staring into space, then on a few more, stop there again, so on, drifting around day after day, all the time she cried, the one time she could remember, since she was a baby, must have cried as a baby, perhaps not essential to life, just the birth cry to get her going, breathing, no more till this old hag already sitting, staring at her hand, where was it? Crocus Acres, one evening on the way home, a little mound in Crocus Acres, dusk, sitting, staring at her hand, there in her lap, palm upward, suddenly saw it wet, the palm, tears presumably, hers presumably, no one else for miles, no sound, just the tears, sat and moist and dry, all over in a second, grabbing at straw, the brain flickering away on its own, quick grabbing on, nothing that onto the next, bad as the voice, worse, as little sense and all that together, can't, what, the buzzing, yes, all the time the buzzing, door roll like falls in the beam, flickering on and off, starting to move around, like moonbeam, but not, all part of the same, keep an eye on that too, corner of the eye, all that together, can't go on, God is love, she'll be perched back in the field, morning sun, April, sleep face down in the grass, nothing but the light, so I'm grabbing at the straw, straining to hear the odd word, make some sense of it, whole body like conscious mouth like maddened, and can't stop, no stopping it, something she had to, what, who, no, she! Something she had to, what? The buzzing, yes, all the time the buzzing, door roaring the skull and the beam ferreting around, painless so far, then thinking, oh, long after sudden flash, perhaps something she had to tell, could that be it? Something she had to tell. Tiny little thing before its time got a second hole, no love spared, that speechless all her days, practically speechless, how she survived that time in court. What had she to say for herself? Guilty or not guilty? Stand up woman, speak up woman, stood there staring into space, mouth half open as usual, waiting to be led away, glad of the hand on her arm. Now this, something she had to tell, could that be it? Something she would tell how it was, how she, what, had been. Yes, something that would tell how it had been, how she lived on and on, guilty or not, on and on to be something. 60, she was 70, good God, on and on to be 70, something she didn't know herself, wouldn't have she heard then, forgiven God, his love, tender mercies, new every morning, back in the field, April morning, facing the grass, nothing but the lights, picked up, get on with it from there, another few, what, not that, nothing to do with that, nothing should tell, alright, nothing should tell, think, try something else, think of something else, all long after sudden flash, not that either, alright, something else, so again, it's honest in the end, think everything, keep on long enough, then forgive him back in the, what, not that either, nothing to do with that either, nothing she could think, alright, nothing she could tell, nothing she could think, nothing she, what, who, no, she! Tiny little thing, out before its time, got to second hole, no love, spared, that speechless all the days, practically speechless, even to herself, never out loud, but not completely, sometimes unnoticed, once or twice a year, always winter, some strange reason, the long evenings, hours of darkness, sudden to tell, then rush out, stop the first she saw, nearest lavatory, start pouring out, steady stream, mad stuff, half the valves wrong, no one could follow, till she saw the stairs she was getting, then die of shame, crawl back in, once or twice a year, always winter, some strange reason, long hours of darkness, now this, quicker and quicker the words, the brain, flickering away like mad, quick grabbing on, nothing there, on somewhere else, try somewhere else, all the time, something in a begging it all to stop and answer prayer and answer door, and her too faint, so on, keep on trying, not knowing what she was trying, what to try, whole body like on just the mouth like mad, and so on, keep what, the buzzing, yes, all the time the buzzing, door roll like falls in the skull and the beam, poking around, painless, so far, all that, keep on, not knowing what she was, what, who, no, she! What she was trying, what to try, no matter, keep on, it's honest in the end, then back, God is love, tender mercies, new every morning, back in the field, April morning, facing the grass.